Not only do voters not blame Trump for the COVID virus, when they think back to COVID policies, the bad policies they remember are actually Democrats.
Right.
It was the Democrats that were the biggest ones on shutting everything down. And even when Biden came into office, he was the one that had the teachers unions in the White House planning on scheming how to keep the lockdowns longer. Voters remember that. So when you do remind them about 4 years ago, they think, oh, COVID, and so what party do they then blame for the worst of COVID? It's not Trump. It's the Democrats.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with commentary editor Conn Carroll. And Conn, Donald Trump is doing surprisingly well in the polls. Some might even say he's leading. And you wrote in a piece this week about how some of that could be attributed to the fact that he's winning on the sort of conceptual question of, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Even though that's not really true in a literal sense, because 4 years ago we were all stuck at home
Right.
with COVID.
Paul Crowley at the New York Times wrote an article about this, and it's a classic question that we ask during presidential elections: are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And objectively, anyone looking at the question now versus 4 years ago would have to say that they're not better off, because of course we were all locked down, we were wearing stupid masks. When we did go out, to be 6 feet apart.
Yep.
No officers weren't going to work. It was just a highly stressful time. And of course, the unemployment rate was like double digits. It was bad times. But the reason why it doesn't work is that nobody blames Trump for COVID, right? This is part of the reason why the discussion around the lab leak is so partisan, because Trump right away was like, oh, it's the China virus. Cotton said, oh, it's the lab leak. That makes it seem more like it's not Trump's fault.
Right.
Whereas Democrats always wanted to pin it on Trump. But not only do voters not blame Trump for the COVID virus, when they think back to COVID policies, the bad policies they remember are actually Democrats.
Right.
It was the Democrats that were the biggest ones on shutting everything down. And even when Biden came into office, he was the one that had the teachers unions in the White House planning on scheming how to keep the lockdowns longer. Voters remember that. So when you do remind them about 4 years ago, they think, oh, COVID, and so what party do they then blame for the worst of COVID? It's not Trump. It's the Democrats. And so that's why that question, it's when Trump's raising himself. It's when he posted on his own social media, are you better off 4 years ago? That question, because of the timing of COVID and because voters associate bad COVID policies with the Democrats, that's why it's working for Trump and not against him.
Another reason why perhaps people feel they're worse off now, besides inflation, is the border crisis is front and center, not just along the border, but all over the country in America's biggest cities. And in another piece this week, you sort of wrote about the staggering scope of that crisis.
Yes. So the Center for Immigration Studies does an annual take on, they use census numbers. This is it actually comes from the jobs report. So there's a monthly census data, basically a poll that they do to try to see where the population is throughout the country. And so they extract from this data, they take out the foreign-born number, and from a number of different analytical tools, they're able to say what percentage of the population is foreign-born, how many of those are legal, how many of those are not, and how that has grown over time. So what they have discovered is that, number one, the percentage of foreign-born people in the United States has literally never been higher. We're at historic highs now. Never in American history have the percentage of foreign-born been this high. Second, the growth in foreign-born since Biden took office has never been higher. We're experiencing just a light speed move forward in the percentage of people who are foreign-born. And of course, the main driver of that, there's the same study found that the number of illegal immigrants has grown 3.8 million since Biden took office. That's just a huge number. There's most states are not that big, and that's the addition of illegal immigration during Biden's time, and that just boggles the mind. And that's why you see so many localities across the country, Denver, Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C., they all are having trouble providing housing, healthcare, education, food for these migrants, and it's really hurting people.
Given all of that, the perceptions that the Democrats are closely associated with things that have made their lives worse. How are voters going to have their minds changed by now? What can Biden do? Is it these early debates that could help with that, or could that make it worse?
It seems that way. I mean, it wasn't just 2 months ago that reporters would ask Biden, are you going to debate Donald Trump? And he's like, only if he behaves. Well,
Yeah.
Trump hasn't behaved. Come on. No. So something has changed in Biden's calculus, and that calculus is the poll numbers. He's behind in the polls, especially in swing states. The campaign realizes something's got to change. So they're proposing one of the earliest, if not the earliest debates ever. This is a June debate. Neither candidate is either going to be the official candidate yet, and yet they're going to be debating in June. And clearly it's an effort by the Biden administration to change the calculus, to shake something up, to get momentum going the other direction.
Isn't it a big risk for Biden to hold it before the convention, though? Because Democrats would still have it out if he has some sort of brain aneurysm and can't form a sentence on the stage.
Yeah, that's one argument. But another one is, I think, you kind of shut that down. It's like, we can't have, he's the nominee, we've already done a debate.
Right.
So that it kind of puts a kibosh on are they going to switch horses at the convention speech, I think.
Well, Conn, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more writing from Conn and the rest of the commentary team at washingtonexaminer.com.